I'll just say a few words and hope you're all right on all of you. I know a lot of you know each other, so that's great. But what I'd like to do is after I am done doing my introduction and
You hear me? We'll have each of you just say your name and hopefully what your interest is in this process and what you hope to accomplish. Don't want to make it too complicated. So Grady Miller, I'm town manager. Looking forward to working with all of you. I think this is a great process. It's one of the more important issues that we've had in a long time related to preservation of our open space, particularly the state trust land. I'd like to introduce, as everyone knows, quite a few people know Luke Hausman. He's our Development Services Director, and he's going to be the lead staff involved in this process. And a number of you probably also know Bambi Muller. She's been our trails coordinator, and she's been involved in securing trails over the years and is going to be really like a technical staff on this process. We also have our town attorney, Bill Sims. He's going to have a small portion of the agenda today regarding open meetings. And so he's here. And so once we get to that item, then he will take over. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Luke, because I know you have a few words as well.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you everyone for being here. Luke Houtzman, Development Services Director for the town. I've been with the town 20 years, started as an intern, born and raised in Cave Creek, fortunate or not. Just happy to work with you all. We've got some binders that we've prepared. We'll hand those out at the end of the meeting, so we're not constantly rifling through. We can kind of focus on getting to know each other a little bit and getting this started. So really what the committee scope and purpose is, I'll read it. The purpose of this committee is to study and evaluate the future disposition of approximately 4,000 acres of state trust land zoned open space recreation and open space conservation, and present the committee's findings and recommendations to the town council to consider. What staff has done, because of the size of the group, some of you have worked on groups in the past that have been 7 to 9 members. This is rather large, so we've kind of selected different areas of focus that maybe we can form some working groups, and we'll spend a little bit of time trying to do that today. I know that there are some members that I recognize not being here, so we'll try to get them, up to speed as we move along. That's just a little bit about me and a little bit about this group. If we want to start maybe down at the end, John, then sure, go ahead and as best we can speak into the one of many mics pulled out of a hat earlier.
Hi, my name is John Carbone. I've lived in Cave Creek since 2016. I live out near Spurcross. I've been involved in municipal finance for 40 years, so muni bonds are kind of my specialty. So hopefully I can bring some of that to the committee.
Glad you're here. Thank you. Stereo, I guess. My name is Bill Basor. I've been in Cave Creek residence since 2011. In part, you folks are here because when they had the call to public at the council, when they first took up this idea, I suggested the council this would be a really good committee on. So if this goes well, you can thank me. If it goes badly, well, give me a head start. Previously, under Stacy's leadership, I was part of the trail committee, and that was very successful. And we did a lot of good. And in the process of doing the trail committee, what we did was we learned about the inventory of open space and where the trails were at. And we're going to see some other open space that the town owns that you may not even be aware of. And so I felt like that was something that I could bring to the party, was that knowledge of where the trails were, where the space is.
Unknown caller.
Thank you.
There's a wireless mic at the end too. If we just want to pass, we'll pass them. Like we can do that.
Hello. Oh, hi. I'm Stacy Daniel. My husband and I bought our 5 acres up near on Cahaba Ranch Road in 2004, and we've moved here permanent residents since 2008, and had never really had an interest in knowing what was going on and with the town. Come to some of the council meetings, but when the Trails Committee happened, I got very interested, and so I was lucky enough to be able to lead that to a good conclusion. And I feel like this is a natural progression to that with getting the open space. I've got a background of graphic design. I am a graphic designer currently, and I feel I can add some, use my talents toward one of those committees. So, thank you. I'm Carol Perry. I've lived in Cave Creek since 1992. I was heavily involved in chasing down the whole town to vote for the Spur Cross vote, and even rented a van to drive all my neighbors to town to vote that day. And my skill set there was best used having neighborhood forums and talking to people about why it was so important to save Spur Cross. It was easier than we thought because it's so iconic up there. I don't think this is any different. I think we should still be able to do a really excellent job of convincing the citizens how important it is to save this land. And if it takes a property tax to do it, we did it once, we can do it again. We have the proof that when we say it's for this and then it's over, that we held to that. So the people who, we had a lot of challenges last time, people saying, oh, once you have a property tax, you never let it go. Well, we did let it go. So we have that in our pocket to use this time around. So the skills I would offer are talking again to our neighbors, our people, and wherever we can to get them on board.
You want to leave? Barbara?
Me? Sorry, I would like to dance. No, but I don't know how.
Well, usually committee meetings, I try to plan my dentist
Okay.
appointment during the.
I was already at a take longer. What are we doing? This I'm
The introduction.
okay. That's off. Barbara Miller. Well, I was an old PE teacher, so you can hear me. So, why I was interested because I live on Saddle Mountain Road, and I was introduced to this concept by a another agent in our office, and I thought that would be really good to get involved. But I've hiked and I've lived up there for 25 years, so very interested in what's happening. For those of you that don't know, that's where the Cahaba Ranch thing is. So, wanted to make sure going forward how we're dealing with that. And some of her school second. Then
I'm Karen Teets. I moved out to Arizona in 2015. Originally, I was over in Dale Lane. I now live in the Saguaro West area, where I purchased a property in 2017, I believe it was. So I volunteered for this committee because I would like to become more active in the town as it develops. I have not previously been on a committee, but I do have a business. I work for the Maricopa County Superior Courts. And so I have 13 employees at my disposal, and I may fit best in the community outreach and perhaps drafting of documents and things of that nature, if that would be beneficial. But I'm anxious to learn about the entire process.
Hi, my name is Marcy Kremen. I live up on Grapevine Road, been in the neighborhood generally for about 22 years. And I think this is an incredible opportunity for Cave Creek, and I just wanted to be a part of it for, bragging rights, I guess, or not, if you have to get out of there fast. But I think I have a sales and management background. I'm not sure about know, which committee I might be best on, but I can certainly lend whatever, you know, assets I have. Happy to do it with everybody. Glad to be a part of it.
Paul Diefendorfer, been visiting out here for 50 years, moved up here in the early 90s, served on council for a few years, and I'm just looking to help out, keep Cave Creek, keep it creeker.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Abay. You guys have all been here for quite a while so far. I lived here in 10 and 11 for a couple of years. We were in transition, and now I'm back here. We bought land in 22. We built our home. We moved in early 24. I have a big heart for this community and the uniqueness for what it is. And I am in favor of the open space. I'm very good at research. I'd like to keep it the way it is as much as we can, and I understand changes and we have to progress as we move forward. I think this committee is going to work awesome together. Job in presenting to the that would be as far as the land use. So I would think that we're all going to come together as a big group, right, and bring that information.
I'm going to go over the structure of the
Okay. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to meet all you guys. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janet Moore. I've been here since about 93 in the town. And I was lucky enough to sit down with Ian when he was doing all of this and go over how it was all working out, and have worked with the people in the town for a long time. But I have a background in real estate, and I've also a certification for land analysis. And I think this is about my 5th committee I've been on to save this land. And this is the last one. It's going to happen this time.
You guys want to try? Go ahead.
So far, I think I've been here the longest. I moved here in 1986. I was on, Jackie Davis was the mayor then. I was on the first planning commission the year we incorporated. So I was involved and helped with other members on the planning commission of developing a general plan for Cave Creek. And so I kind of have skin in the game as far as, because at the end of the day, after the negotiations and the final plan, there was a big emphasis. Well, I would say the cornerstone of this town, keeping it different, was low density and open space, and just generally respect for the, and I think that's served us well since incorporation to today. We still look different than our neighbors. And it's probably because there's desert in between us. I served on the town council for 3 terms as vice mayor once. Been on the planning commission times, then I can count. I'm still on the planning commission. I've been chairman. When I was vice mayor, I took on, with the help of Ernie Bunch, who was, I think he was then mayor, I get, or not, and Mayor Van Francia, and spent almost 2 years of my term negotiating with ADAQ and the land department to work out that getting the land squared away and preserved forever. I mean, it was a grueling negotiation. We thought we had it done. They proposed a value transfer for more densely developed areas. We could give them our open space credit, and they would pay for it so that they didn't have to give up open space where they were developing. But the Army Corps of Engineers, it was right at the end, were evaluating it, and that was all that was left. And I guess there wasn't enough endangered species or enough big desert tortoises, but it didn't work out. And so I'm here to make sure we get it done this time, because we were so close. And I think, and it is something that'll make this count. And kind of the heart of Cave Creek as far as I'm concerned. well, I don't want us to screw this up. And it's going to take the whole town. I mean, we're never going to be able to, use general funds, or we're going to have to go to the town for something, some form that this done. So I hope, more than that, I just hope by the end of this process, we're all proud and we're all friends. Seriously. Because that's the best blessing that can happen here. I mean, this is democracy. But we still have. Well, we've got for another day. But I didn't. Well,
Everybody, I'm Annie Molaski. My husband and I lived in Cave Creek for the last 5 years, in the northern part of the valley for about the last 12 years, but I grew up in southern Arizona. If you're familiar with Sierra Vista, grew up there. Have been in Arizona most of my life. We live, my husband and I back up right up to the Cave Creek trails, which we use quite a bit. I think Jewel of the Creek is one of my favorite trails to hike on a lazy Saturday. Big hikers, backpackers, so super interested in keeping our open space as much as possible. I'm an HR director at Honeywell Aerospace currently, so tons of experience with program and project management. I have a degree in public administration, lots of experience with civic engagement and community service. So really hoping that I can help contribute in a couple of those different ways. So totally up for where best you.
Amby, why don't you, that's the brief.
Hi, I'm Bambi Miller. I'm the trails coordinator for the town. I've worked for the town for 33 years, the last couple of years part-time, but I've worked with a lot of you before on the open space and on trails. So I'm looking forward to working with everybody, and hopefully we can accomplish what we set out to do.
So I think before we get into the selection of the chair and vice chair, Bill, do you want to, are you kind of queued up to go through real briefly the open meeting law?
Sure.
Then and quorum.
Yep. Can you hear me? Test 1, 2. Can you hear me? Hello. Can.
Yeah, Bill, we got you.
Okay. Sorry. My first involvement with your town was in the late 90s as a deputy county attorney when we worked with you concerning Spur Cross. It surprised the supervisors and me that a community would vote to impose a tax on itself. That isn't common in Arizona. But that's the challenge you have now in front of you. Since then, I've been working with cities and towns all over the state, and I'm currently your town attorney. And I continue to be impressed with the community spirit and the dedication to open space. But I'm also aware that getting the public to vote for a property tax isn't easy, and that's your challenge. Your challenge is to inspire confidence and credibility without losing efficiency. The open meeting law does just that. Having said that, I can't tell you how many managers and mayors have said to me, the open meeting law is really a pain, and how can we get around it? So Luke and I have worked on an idea that can work, that will keep you open, but then allow you to be efficient. And that's by creating work groups, not subcommittees. The open meeting law would apply to any subcommittee that makes a recommendation that goes to a governing body that is subject to the open meeting law. But if we create work groups and we say to the work groups, you have every right to use the work group to develop facts, this is the caveat, but not develop recommendations for actions by you, the body in this room right now. The way we could do that is to just be careful and just make sure all you're doing is trying to discern facts. And the minute the facts begin to evolve into a recommendation that you will make to this group and eventually to the council, then I think we would notice an open meeting so we could show the Attorney General that we know what the open meeting law means and we know how to hold a meeting. So that way you can have your work groups, you can go ahead and have discussions, and then don't do any recommendations till they come to council. Or sorry, not council, come back to you. So I think, Luke, is that enough, or do you need something more?
I think, does anyone have questions kind of about that. And really what, just going back, Bill, to previous experience, just making sure, because we're going to have a roster. We're going to send everyone a roster with contact information. We want to be very careful and vigilant that we're not doing mass emails to one another, talking about things that we're going to be discussing as an entire group. And what we are thinking as staff in this meeting specifically is we'll develop kind of a calendar when we'll bring all of us together in this type of setting and discuss what's going on in the work groups, start to work those. Work groups will meet independent of that meeting. So we're going to try to shoot for once a month. Try to get at least 5 meetings, maybe a few more, depending on how in depth some of the groups go. That's really the bottom line. Is you are now an appointed body of Cave Creek Conference, so you are working under them to push forward a recommendation. You don't want to be doing that in the background via text, via email, via monthly talking and discussing the community. Then all of that is brought to the our at large committee. Does that kind of sum it up, Bill?
Yeah, but I think as you identify the number of people on each work group, you ought to keep that number constant. And to the extent you allow others to come into the work group and create a larger number, you risk creating a quorum of a larger body. So it'd be wise just to keep the work groups the way they are. And you shouldn't let the open meeting law scare you into inactivity. I think you should be able to have all the discussions you want. And who from staff will be at the work groups? Will it be you, Luke? Who will be there?
TBD. We're going to build that plane as we're flying.
My point is there should be at least one to make sure they can be the observer to see if the discussions are moving from factual to recommendations. It's a very fine line. I'm willing to defend you. I've battled the AG, and I see a former Attorney General representative in the room right now. And I'll be happy to try to explain to the Attorney General why I believe discussions about facts aren't recommendations and don't require an open meeting.
We never battle.
I'm glad you're there, Steve.
All of that in more detail as we kind of flesh out who's going to be in what group and how that's going to look. And then we'll need to figure out how are we going to meet. Are we going to meet virtually via Zoom link or Teams or some other telecom type way, or do we want to bring work groups into here and meet? So there's a lot of things that are still to be determined. What we didn't want was for another month to go by where we didn't kind of get right on this. The Planning Commission appointed you all September 2nd. We wanted to get this kind of kickoff meeting started this month just to show that we're moving forward, because this is kind of a time sensitive issue, and we wanted to just get right on top of it. So
if I could, I mean, our target is to complete the work by the end of February and then have a report presented to council in March. Now, the council, if they are to refer this to voters, I'm not even knowing what that question might be for a ballot, but that has to be formulated and taken action by May in order to notify the county elections to get this on the ballot. So there's a little bit of time we built in, but we really want to be productive and kind of burn through this so that we have sufficient time following the council's presentation that the group makes to them. So any questions on either the structure and function, or with the number of people? I think that these work groups are going to be a really good, highly efficient way of breaking these components into bite-sized pieces. And I'm hoping that each of you with your expertise are able to find a work group that fits with you. I know there might be some that might be in maybe higher demand, and we just hope that you guys understand we can't have more than the recommended number of people per work group. And again, that also means for you, nobody is to be floating in and out of these different work groups, as Bill was saying, because we got to be very cognizant of quorums and not. We're already down, is it 2 people
Correct.
And
We had two resign. There are two members absent that didn't provide notice they'd be absent. So I'll reach out to them. And then one that has an excused absence is actually on a plane right now. So in theory, there should be 15 members. So what we did is we looked at it was 17.
it had two that totally resigned.
Yeah.
Do we know? Can you let us know?
Yeah. So we have Jolene Gardner and Jeremy Shamel.
And he's just literally just came through the last day or two.
Yeah, yesterday. And then Susan Demet is not here, and Monique Takaruru. And Monique, yes. She's Monique, right? So they teacher, right? Yeah. So those were not here and didn't let us know they weren't going to be. Then David Ackerman was someone else that was appointed, and he reached out to Grady right away and said, "I'm not going to be able to attend the meeting today." And then he expressed interest in one of the working groups. So we'll try to piece all of that together. I think that'll be the lion's share of kind of the remainder of our day after we get to the selection of the committee chair and vice chair.
So I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
Bill.
So Bill, with 15 members remaining, if we drop down any more, do we need to go back to council and have them reestablish the number, so that, because right now, you know what it's like if you're trying to meet a quorum of 17 and you have 15 people, you use the number for the 17, and that means you have to have 9 people. But if now it's really the real number is 15, so how does that work, Bill?
Well, we do need to change for the purposes of constituting the quorum. The fact that we have vacancies doesn't reduce the quorum if you were authorized at 15. Having said that, Mr. Besor called me the day after the meeting and pointed out the agenda was 7 to 9 and we went to 17. What I would do, Grady, is I think at the next council meeting, we'll let the numbers flesh out, and then you or Luke can report. And then I think we could have the council ratify the number that exists so that we know how to compute a quorum. I do think we do need to have the count. I do not think we should go through, it's your call, not mine. I wouldn't go through the process of trying to get more candidates to fill vacancies.
No. Trust me. No, I just want to make sure that.
Like that from the record, please.
Yeah. But again, the larger numbers really do make the quorums harder to meet.
So that's why I think we just get you report it once we know what the numbers are and let the council ratify.
Find out from the two that were here and make sure that they're,
Bill, interesting. I know. Could I ask you to provide clarity about how we can provide facts in favor of the tax, but we can't actually lobby in favor of a fact would have to be involved.
I can barely hear Bill, but if you're asking me to provide clarity between what a fact is and what a recommendation is, you don't want an answer. We want it to be as ambiguous as we can so that you can explore many facts. And I'll handle it.
No, Bill, what I was asking was, my understanding is that this committee can provide facts and factual data about a possible tax, but we cannot lobby for such a thing. That would require, can you give us a little clarity on that?
Who are you going to lobby?
The
What are
public.
you talking about lobbying?
The public. We haven't.
I think you have every right to share information.
Correct.
I'm perfectly fine. And that even bond attorneys could tell you when schools, you're allowed to go out and publish information. You're not allowed to use public funds to influence the vote. You are allowed to, in effect, communicate information. So I think that's perfectly fine.
My understanding is elected officials and like bodies like this, let's say we are done with this process. We are now going into the outreach in the community, holding public meetings. The staff can go and do its presentation on the factual information that what will be before them. But committee members could testify and say, I was involved in this process and I believe very wholeheartedly in this. They can do that outside of having a political action committee. They can do that just like the council members can do that. Now, staff is prohibited from either using town resources, using time, and saying, that they support this. We can only just state the facts, but they can, outside of this process, when we're done, they could do that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But we can't raise money to promote that
Not an
or
official,
spend
not an
money.
official part of the, but
Right.
this will come to a conclusion
At the conclusion, yes.
after the report is presented, and then you guys go away as an ad hoc committee.
Yeah. Bill has done a very good job of scaring the hell out of me previously over public meeting law.
You're hard to scare, Bill.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question since you brought the money up, and I know that Mr. Sims talked about a tax, and I don't know that we have to go there yet, and I know that I don't want to go too far into this, but if I know somebody that might be able to donate money, is that going to be okay for me to discuss?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, because I think that's what the workers are going to be doing. It's discerning different options in different ways. And as you guys remember with the, as you recall with the Spur Cross, from what I understand, there was all sorts of partnerships and collaborations between governmental entities. County played a role in it. There was some earmarking of some funds from, I believe it was the state, and there was also the Desert Foothills Land Trust. So there were a lot of different entities that, and I think that's what you want. You want to leverage. And there was also fundraising in the very beginning, before any of those partnerships came about. There was fundraising as well. Now, I'm not advocating, I'm just telling you that I think you guys are going to come up through, and as part of your discernment process, you're going to be able to come back with some recommendations ultimately for this committee. We will properly notice those, Bill. So when, but the point is, I do think, to Janet's point, it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion, but we may have some language that's permissible on the ballot that may be like, get us to the finish line to make up the difference, but it may not be fully financed by the town or by the residents with the property tax. So I think you bring up a really good point, and thanks for bringing that up, Janet.
After had the open house and Jesuit Path, she's on her way. And the actors apologize. She didn't want to
Are there any other questions for Bill while he's here? Otherwise, we can let Bill go. Bill, thank you very much.
But thank you. I admire all of you. I'm currently a town attorney for 7 town cities. And you impressed me with the degree to which you are so dedicated to your community. And you impressed me with your fidelity to democracy. The fact that you're here shows me that our government can still survive. Good luck.
Question.
Yes.
Does gathering facts include asking residents if they would support a tax?
Sure.
Actually, you need to do this on the front end.
No.
Yeah, number one.
Right.
I'd like to try to read
There may be, and this is infancy, right? So I don't want to start building in and baking in recommendations, but there may be a recommendation from the outreach group. Let's develop a survey. Let's send it out. Let's get some feedback about open space and about people's general knowledge of open space and how open space acquisition could be funded. Those are things that would come out of a working group type of situation, not just individuals going out and knocking on doors as you're so familiar with from the Spur Cross efforts. So, yeah, we don't want to assume the end and what that looks like. We need to start laying the foundation on how to build together cohesively to an end, and that end may be a little bit for people. Okay.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye.
So now the your guys' first parliamentary procedure is at your feet. We need to select a ad hoc committee chair and vice chair. So the way this works is typically you do nominations, you would take a vote, And then we would move on to the next. So nominations for chair, take a vote, elect a chair, and then there would be nominations for vice chair. And once those nominations are collected, we take a voice vote. So with that,
I nominate Steve Lamar for chair.
Second.
sure. That's you guys don't even need staff here. You guys are fully functioning. Were there any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Chairman Lamar. You, Sam, we don't give him a choice to accept.
There's going to be a lot of work and a lot of twists and turns, and we're going to get this done.
Yeah.
We're going to get this.
And we will take nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Bill Besor for second chair.
Too many seconds to count. Any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, we will take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Congratulations, Vice Chair Besor. Thank you. Same. You don't even need a new name tag.
I don't even name that.
Saving money, baby.
We will make this one of the best deals that Cave Creek has made. This will be a good one.
Okay.
So you guys have just finished doing it all and we'll just leave.
So if the chairman would permit, I would like to go into the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion of structure and function of committee and working groups. We've already kind of briefly touched on this. Grady and myself, in order to stay on schedule and complete its findings and recommendation, staff recommends the establishment of 4 working groups to meet independently of the committee. Members of the committee will sign up to work on a single working group based on interest and background. Due to open meeting laws, which we've gone over, regarding quorums, there can be no more than the members of the working groups shown below to attend and serve on the working groups. So we've got, if you've all gone through the agenda, staff has recommended these 4 working groups: communication and outreach. This group will focus efforts on preparing any general information and education related materials pertaining to the acquisition and preservation of open space. The next group is evaluating and prioritizing open space areas. This group will assess the various open space recreation and open space conservation zone lands and make its recommendation on what priority areas should be a focus. The next working group is identifying potential stakeholders or partnerships. That group will identify individuals, groups, and agencies of which the town should pursue partnering with for the purpose of open space acquisition. And the last group, perhaps most important, is identifying the options of financing. This group will examine the funding and financing opportunities for open space acquisition. So what staff has done, we have essentially those 4 working groups with clipboards and sign-up sheets.
So look, if I may.
Yes, please.
Being that those numbers were based on 17, I would recommend that maybe the communication outreach be reduced from 4 to 3. And maybe the evaluating, prioritizing open space areas go from 5 to 4, just to add a little bit balance of the 15. Obviously, the committee can come up with what they want, but we need to make sure that we have 15 for those groups and that we're not over on our numbers.
Be a solid number this month.
No, and it could be a moving target depending on what happens after this meeting. Yes, Bill.
Might we consider combining 2 of the groups in case we drop any more folks?
I think we originally started off with 3, and I think 4 works fine for now, but I would say if that happens, absolutely. Do you have a recommendation?
No, I'm just thinking about what happens if we end up, when you were in school and you got in that committee and one person actually did the whole report.
Yes.
Trying to avoid that.
Group projects. That's right. So let's look at doing that. I just want to make sure we're not over the number of people, because then that will mean 2 work groups for somebody, and we don't want to really get into that. So So, and you guys could change it up however you want. It's the committee. I was just trying to be simplified, and I do agree, Bill. I think that's a very good suggestion. If we we somehow lose another couple people, that we consolidate, collapse a couple of them, so we end up just with 3, but one that might have more people on it. Well,
And to Grady's point also, and what we learned really very well from the Morningstar ad hoc group was this is now your committee. You have an official chair and a vice chair. We're posting agendas. We're taking recording of the meeting. Staff is here to provide kind of guide rails, feedback, suggestions, but really at the end of the day, this is your committee. So if you disagree with staff and say those 4 groups are completely erroneous and unnecessary, let's do 3 groups and name them this. You guys can discuss that. Or if we just want to hand out these and get your feedback on where you would like to serve and what focus area you'd like to serve, we can do that. So it's really.
I have a question. Yeah, I'll share it. I guess I like the idea of the working group, so that we do, but I'm just seeing that the only way to set this up is to have a pretty superficial identification of the broad areas. It really doesn't pin down what kind of skills and what exactly you're going to be doing in order to explore financing. My question is, if we have 10 people that want to be on Group A, as an example, we're going to have to do a little bit of massaging and reworking. And my question is, as long as there's 4 members, there could be a switch in the group, or does it have to be the same 4 members from the beginning?
It needs to be the same.
The same. So once I guess what I'm concerned
What we're trying to do is we're trying to avoid the whole open meeting situation.
I understand.
To do. Otherwise, we're going to have to start doing meeting notices, and
see
that's complexity. Plus, you have to have these work group meetings in very public places. You can't just be in your home, because we'll have an agenda notice or meeting notice, and it's not considered a public place to hold these in your home.
I get that, and my only concern is that I don't know that all of us can intelligently decide which area we want to work in. We don't quite know what that entails, but maybe it won't be a problem. That's all.
Just try to go with your expertise, what you think you are the best at.
Yeah, from the introductions, we kind of gleaned a little bit from each other about what got someone that does public finance down there. We got a fellow public administrator down there. So we've got a good blend of personalities and traits that could probably fit into those groups. And until working groups start meeting, we don't have to set these in stone. We can, I don't mind sending these in a little bit more descriptive background on what these groups look like. Maybe staff over the next day looks at what a combination, cutting it down to 3 looks like, and maybe sends that around. So you'll see, for example, when we email you, it's always blind copy. You're always going to get a blind copy email from staff kind of outlining things, because we want to avoid reply all. And I think that's a dumb idea. And then everyone, they're inclined to think that's a dumb idea. So we're always trying to avoid that, but staff can work on this over the next day and give you guys some additional maybe guidance or feedback on what this looks like if the group lands somewhere in the 12, 14, 15 range. Obviously it's no more than 15 at this point.
The other thing is there's not a pecking order either. I mean, these groups are all very important to ultimately what is going to come back to your committee. So everyone's going to have some involvement in this, whether you're on the work groups or the overall committee, because ultimately everything's coming back to this group.
My interpretation of the 3rd and the 4th, the stakeholders and options for financing are kind of overlapping a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
Yeah. It might be a good one to switch together.
Along those lines,
Yeah.
yeah, the natural overlap is the financing and the partnership, because the partnership determines a lot about the financing. And when I look at those two, they're very important functions, but they overlap. They're kind of the same thing. And please, if we can indulge staff to, or get staff to indulge us, please provide us with more description about it, because on financing so far, we've just peripherally touched on the idea that we have a tax and that we can raise the money privately. But there are many other layers of the cake that not everybody in the room knows about. And there are some particulars even about the tax, about this being a secondary property tax, that it goes away, and how that is that is unique to Arizona. Other states don't do that. So people may not be fully familiar with that. So give us some body copy there, if you would, please. And I think there is a big distinction between land that's zoned for recreation and land that's zoned for conservation. And maybe we should provide that distinction as well. And so I just created another extra overtime period.
So what the staff, so what's, there was probably a thought process and the staff went through. Hello, can you hear me now? I'm sorry. So there was probably a thought process in what the staff went to come up with these types of work groups and what they were hoping that it would accomplish. I'm surmising. Maybe I'm wrong on that. So if that little background might be helpful for us too, and to overlap what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and for instance, I'm not sure there is as much an overlap as we might first think, because, you know, separate and apart from just general financing opportunities, if and when we identify the partners, we're going to have a pretty good outline of, because they're going to be those are going to be the entities or the people that are putting in big chunks of either time, management, or money. So it seems to me that that'll be, as things go along, that's going to get identified right away. Either nobody wants to be involved with it, or the county and everybody does want to get involved with it. And we don't know. The state might change its position a little bit as we go along about how much money we need, et cetera. I doubt it, but we can hope. Then there's all the extra stuff, the other stuff that I would call more, you know, this kind of public relations fundraising, just from the folks individually. I remember when we first started talking about this years ago. Were you there, Carol? We went up to the, remember we rented the pavilion?
Yeah.
And everybody bought an acre.
Yeah.
And you put in 400, because that's what we thought the evaluation was going to be. Well, that was wrong too. But it was really good. It really got people involved, because they literally had land in the game, not just skin in the game. So those kind of things, aside from the big chunk institutional partnerships, that's where we could really make hay. And that's probably as important to getting a yes vote on that, you know, mill or two or three or four or 10, or I don't know that we can, but anyway, I'm not going to predict about that. But if you can get early on people like selling and being proud of wearing their Spur Cross t-shirt. I've had this thing forever. I hardly wash it because, you know, it's like, this one is important, but it's not.
It looks new.
But that's where you can really not only make some money with ideas and generating, but you can get people involved. And when you have neighbors talking to neighbors about what a great deal it is, that's when you go and get 70% at the ballot box.
So,
yep.
I have a question. During the Trails Committee, we kept having to be reined back, because we really, everybody on that committee, when we were in agreement, we were trying to figure out how do we go about this. And staff kept having to tell us, that's not on you. You're just here to do recommendations. Once you provide it to the town council, if they so should choose to go along with it, then everything gets implemented. So I think we've got to kind of rein in. I feel like we're so enthusiastic that we want to go out and get
get those partnerships right now, and that's not what our task is. So I think you having to outline this more and tell us
You're absolutely right, Steve.
this is what we're expecting.
To come back with your findings and recommendations, and ultimately reporting it back to the council, and then hopefully some part of this group will become either like a political action committee or a yes on whatever, if that's what they so want. I'm not putting pressure on anybody to do that if they don't want to do it. But the point is, you have a mission, and once that mission's accomplished, you've done what you were, what the scope was for you guys to do that. And so again, we're not trying to put this on you to solve the problem, like how to make this happen or how to make sure that we secure the land. You're coming basically back with a roadmap and how you think it could be done. And the council will consider it and then take action. And there's going to be time, if this is a November election, for instance, and the council decides this in March, there's still time after the March presentation to council to form some sort of a group, advocacy group, or whatever it might be. So that's the opportunity then to actually implement the ideas from the report.
So let me make sure that I understand what you're saying. We aren't actually going to do any work in the working groups to find, talk with, through staff and history in the county, for instance. We're not doing any of that. We're just sitting down. So it would be a good idea to have the county be a partner. It would be a good idea. We don't actually meet with, negotiate,
No,
to make
no.
any recommendation.
But let me tell you, we're going to be bringing in some subject experts. We're going to be bringing in the Desert Foothills Land Trust, and we're going to bring in RJ, who is working as a consultant to us, who has had some experience with some of these opportunities. So I'm not telling you no. You know, you're just supposed to be brainstorming ideas. You're going to be working groups, meaning that you're going to do some work, but you're not doing like when you were on council and you were helping sit at the table with the Arizona State Land Trusts and negotiate an IGA. That's way beyond the scope of this group.
Wow.
Does that make sense what I just said?
Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I mean, even further, we've already kind of lined up some, esteemed guests to come in and either meet with a at-large committee or just give, TED Talks to the working groups as we go through this. The State Land Department has offered staff to come and walk us through what the appraisal, auction, acquisition process looks like, and kind of give an overview of what they do and why they do it, just to kind of give us all a better understanding of why we're here and how we're here. What Cave Creek was able to do and negotiate with the State Land Department was really hasn't been done by anyone else. Others have tried. Few have been successful. What Cave Creek was able to accomplish with them and then working with us and the State Land Commissioner was really historic for Arizona. So
also, I just want to let you guys know too. So like our finance director will be plugged into like that finance work group. We've also have done some maneuvers last year. We have, I think as of the end of last fiscal year, like $1.6 million that is in what I call the open space fund. And council did a change to some of the TPT prioritization of sales tax. And so that's going to generate about $500,000 to $600,000 this year and next year. So that's money that can be available. Obviously, it's going to be part of like what you guys are looking at, but I'm just telling you, staff will pop in and give you guys some of this information, and then it's something that you guys could use as part of your findings and recommendations, your final report to council. Just doing that as an example. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But we do have staff that will be able to answer questions and tell you, like on average, for a house that might be, $800,000, what could this potentially have an impact on if there's a secondary tax after the town puts, $2.5 million down on this. Sorry, Janet.
So I get what you're saying about not going ahead and doing something, but as being on committees as much as I have for doing this, I really want to see this come to fruition. And I don't want to stand in front of council saying, these are the things that we want to do. And then they don't have the insight that we have of knowledge of how we're going to do it. And then just, go and do something else. Okay. So I think what I would like to propose is that maybe we do, see if there are some avenues, some solid avenues. So when we go to the council, we could say, okay, we have this avenue to go to collect the money, so that they just don't jump on taxes. Because honestly, I'm hearing everybody talk about taxes. I've heard them. Was surprised at how they were saying it on council. We're going to have a tax, we're going to have a tax. And even if it's a secondary tax, if that's what we have to do, that's great. But I would like to really look at some real, and I've already talked to somebody. So, and I have some ideas and I without being able to go and I'm not even saying I want to be on that committee. I don't need to be on that committee, but if I know somebody that has some money that they can open up their wallet for, I want to have like real solid things to go to the council with.
I mean, this is a good discussion. I just would caution you that with you being on this committee, you're a representative of the town, and you might be making, or somebody might be misunderstanding what you're saying and making representations on what they might get for their money. I'm just saying we got to be very careful on that. And I'm not saying that you would.
I wouldn't do that.
No, I understand, but I'm saying the other party can say that.
So we get a feeling, where is council on this? It's an open topic. They brought it to the town as to form this.
Our council is, I'll tell you, 100% on board with preservation. There's some that are like similar to Janet that would like to. They know some people that are deep pockets or have deep pockets and would like to see what kind of money can come through those efforts. And I've heard the mayor, he just wants to make sure because he thinks the timing is very good, doesn't want to miss out on that incredible opportunity right now because we don't have a recession going on right now. And what happens when recessions and things like that happen, people start tightening up their belts and their pocketbooks, stuff like that. So what I'm trying to tell you is I think the council's probably like a lot of you guys. They're all for it, but they all have maybe different ideas on how to go about doing it. But I will tell you,
Not T's are crossed.
But I will tell you that by the end of next fiscal year, we will have at least $2.6 million available that could be used as a down payment. And Luke, did you want to just talk a little bit about the IGA that just got approved?
Yes.
Because that kind of plays in a little bit with what we're doing here.
Sure. So the original annexation and zoning agreements that were consummated between the town and the state land department back in 2007, 8, 9. Many of you might be aware that the town was essentially given the right to initiate auction and acquisition efforts to take down the 4,005 acres of open space. We were given a 20-year window to do that. There's been a lot of creative, everyone in Cave Creek's a civil engineer, everyone in Cave Creek's a land use attorney, everyone in Cave Creek is but some people have read those agreements very creatively and said, oh, at the end of 20 years, the land annexes and goes back to county and the zoning reverts back to, none of that is true. None of that is expressed in the agreement. State land has confirmed that. What we started doing with the state land department approximately 2 years ago was reopening a dialogue of, hey, we know those agreements are set to expire June 18th of 2029. What can we do to get those extended? We're probably not in a position right now as we stand. Once again, this is back in 23 to get those lands taken down, purchased and acquired. So we've been working kind of the last 18 months in earnest on getting those agreements extended. Council at their September 2nd meeting approved the resolution to extend those agreements another 10 years from the date of expiration. So now they're set to expire in June of 2039. So it gives the town another essentially 10 years or 30 years total to initiate auction and acquisition of those lands. The only caveat being the state land wanted the town to pledge essentially skin in the game and promise to initiate acquisition of 160 acres of the 4,000 acres within a 5-year time period from the date that those agreements, so those agreements are now sitting at the land commissioner's office waiting for him to sign. So once those are signed and recorded, then we've got, the clock starts ticking that we've got 5 years to acquire or initiate acquisition of 160 acres.
So the reason why I was talking about the down payment is that would exceed the absolute 160 acres, but yet still have us in compliance. And then I think potentially after all the fundraising and all the different collaborations and all that, which I think are going to be essential, it just shows that we may not need to finance any of this. Or if we do, it's just to get it to the finish line, meaning that it's not going to be nearly what they were looking at several years ago for Spur Cross. I still don't think it's nearly the same number.
Can anybody jump in with a big check?
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to, I'm going to make sure I'm crystal clear with this, since I've been honored with his chairmanship. I'm not saying this harsh, I'm just saying it bluntly, because what I'm hearing is if we think it's a good idea that we have partnerships with various institutions and individuals, but we have absolutely no information that any of that is feasible, we just make a recommendation that we should do that, because that's not our job to do anything about doing it. It's just about deciding what are good ideas.
No, Steve, the magic of this committee is that we have absolutely no power whatsoever. But that's our best talent too, because what we can do is we can reach out and find out if there is a deal to be made. We can't make a deal. We have no authority to negotiate the deal. But let's say the Nature Conservancy seems to have a lot of money and we'd like to have some. So we can contact them and see if this is the kind of project they would be interested in considering, where if a member of council did this, it would be a problem. And we did this in the trail committee. And so we can also go to private donors and say, if we were to do such a thing, would you be interested? And I have personally done that so far. Even as a citizen, I can ask that. And I've found that people are very receptive to that. So we don't just have to sit here and say, gee, it would be a good idea. We can reach out. We can do work. We just can't cut the deal. We have no ability to negotiate.
You agree with
Yeah, I think Bill
Passive questioning.
Yeah, it's passive aggressive negotiation. I think it's how they.
negotiation?
No.
They might be interested.
Yeah.
Information.
Yeah. And right. And it is amazing when people know that you don't have the ability to negotiate, then they become more willing to talk to you.
Luke, I have a question. Is there useful information from the Trails Project or the Spur Cross that would help inform us, either as a full group or individually in our groups, that we could read through?
Yes, absolutely. So we, Bambi has kind of curated a baseline binder that we'll pass out. It's got some background information, real high level things. It's like exactly. We've got, it's a one pager that I've really used as a crutch in talking about the state land deal, the annexation agreements, all of those things. It's a real simple one sheet or summary. But these binders, and Bambi and I went back and forth on what size these binders should be. I was opting for slightly smaller, but Bambi.
I tried to get the smaller now up, and I told Phil.
I was going to give you an out. Bambi's the type of public bureaucrat that makes 3 copies, then shreds one. So is better. More is better. Yeah. So these binders should grow and evolve as, you know, and I haven't done personally a group that's this large. I think the largest committee that I've done was kind of the Economic Development Committee when we were in our recession. And I think that was a 12-member group. So it'll be a lot of feedback. Hey, you know, for us, we've kind of lived it. So we know where all the interesting rocks are in the desert. So it'll be helpful for us to be like, hey, you know, what do those agreements say? All right, we'll get you copies and we'll highlight, you know, the key points and kind of give you a summary. So it'll really be a two-way street in that, right? I mean, yeah, if you don't mind, we can kind of get into that too.
The family
Oh, that was better.
for the next meeting, the idea.
There's meeting prior to what?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I can get that.
I think that's a really good base.
Yeah.
And with going back to the working groups, just again, same thing. I've worked with a lot of big groups before. Do we want to take just a first cut at maybe cutting the groups up and see where it lands? And if it's a mess, then more info come back? Or
That's kind of what I was. So my mind's been spinning this.
Giving out the segments.
yeah,
And
you're welcome.
yeah, I was thinking of doing
Maybe later.
an email to everyone saying, "Here's this committee." I'm thinking it sounds like we want to combine financing and the stakeholders. I think, Grady, that's where we were when we were still thinking about maybe a smaller group.
That's been like my favorite. Most of you.
No,
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking maybe 6 members for that combined group, and then 4 for the other 2, 4 each, and that gets us right at 15. So, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
No, we get
stuff over there.
So let's just spitball it. Yeah, exactly. I think we just spitball it.
Couple questions actually.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to rely your live. Yeah, I was Steve mentioned that the prior time that we had initiated get these done, and there were things that happened that didn't happen, and other things show what the engineers not being able to preserve it. Short this thing.
Yeah, the Army Corps of Engineers wouldn't sign off that it was.
So with that back history, before he was to understand,
So that's
as things have changed over time, maybe we have enough that would help us in being able to obtain certain grants or cuts of money.
she lives over by me, so I don't know.
Allow us to
Saying that
my other thought was such, you know, that we can't make recommendations. I understand that, but I brought it up. So
you are
sort of town council. So it's everyone, all us, I think what it is. I mean, it's not wanting, you know, 40,000, it's all eventually.
Yeah, this is
Somebody does. Okay, I don't know too.
but there's a difference in the zoning,
Well, to
which is why there's a difference.
not specific dollars,
So
understanding, but a general understanding. These entities are going to want to put in. Because not only are you going to go to council and ask this, you're going to go to the ballot. And the public needs to know what this all means.
100%.
Just to be able to say, oh, we got these guys with us. We don't know how much these guys are going to.
Well, a recommendation. So, what essentially would end up is a report and recommendation. And it would outline, you know, what the different groups, what they focused on, what they worked through, what their recommendations are, what that group's recommendations. And maybe it's, hey, we need to go out and get private donors to pony up. We need to hit $2 million. Right. And then if we go to Maricopa County or we go to these other agencies, these other government agencies, well, our target needs to be X million dollars. And then the town has general fund capability to lend this X amount. And then you know what that gap is.
So once we identify these people, the timeline that you were referring to, Brady, that you think that's enough time to be able to go to these particular entities and get somewhat of a commitment from them to them?
That's what I think. That's the 4,000.
I think that the ballot language, we have to work. Kathleen, I think that the ballot language, if it's flexible enough, could be up to a maximum not to exceed X, with the understanding that that buys us additional, maybe a couple years of fundraising and know what we need to do. But we also have authorization for the voters to go secure and try to acquire the state trust land. So that's where it's going to get tricky, because you typically need to have, you know, a town attorney really write that up and make sure it's legal and all that. But just talking to him, he believes we can come up with some language like that then gives us the flexibility to do what we need to do. Because I know we're not going to be able to get the partnerships and all that because they have to budget for this. Like the county board of supervisors, and it's going to take a couple years just for them to kind of start appropriating and start planning, and it takes some time just to kind of develop those relationships. It's a whole new body now, and so while I think Kate Brophy McGee is very shown a lot of interest in this area, it's going to take a lot of money on their part. But there's a lot of these good partnerships, and so I do think we have the time to do it. And same thing you're suggesting, like going and try to get private donors. I think that's all part of the equation too. So it's all going to be like, if you could just think of a pie that might be, $15 million or $18 million, and one part of that's going to be the county, one part of it's going to be the town, another part's going to be private donors, and it's going to make up the pie. The whole pie is going to be taken up by various different sources to pay for this land.
So I think some of you are looking at your maps. So I just want to briefly go through those and what those represent. We have to get the Bibles place up here. So really, this map is probably the most important because it outlines all of the state land holdings within the municipal boundaries. So those agreements that I was referring to earlier that really started those talks in 2002, 2003. Big was involved. Right. And, I was still in school, so don't hold it against me. But so the way this worked was essentially transferring density of state trust land. So the state sells land, leases land that pays for public education. They do not like to leave any value on the table. So what we were able to negotiate with them was taking essentially the density and intensity of uses that could go up here, which is the blue and the green is all the open space, the 4,000 acres and some, and moving it down to essentially this is probably the lion's share of the pie. This is 240 acres of commercial zoned state trust land, 120 acres is general commercial, 120 acres is commercial buffer. Then we were also able to negotiate with them to get a lower density residential component here, Willow Springs, but most of it is DR 43, which is 1 acre, 1 dwelling unit per acre zoning.
Isn't that Elephant Mountain?
It is not. That is, yeah, it's right in here, I believe. So that's kind of how this plays out. But this map is very good because it gives you a breakdown of those 4 agreements. We annexed Willow Springs, we annexed Rogers Wash, we annexed Apache Wash, and then the core site is all of the land, the state land holdings within the town boundaries prior to those agreements that they were willing to rezone to open space recreation or conservation in exchange for the commercial considerations and the DR 43 and the remaining. So this gives you a breakdown of how many acres of each zoning classification are in each of these areas. So for me, for my money, this map is probably the most comprehensive of all the maps in your file.
I used to know, but is Apache Springs in one of our areas?
It is.
South of Cahaba.
Yeah.
See that actually is here's Cahaba, right?
Yeah.
Their Apache Springs is this right? It's right close. I know.
Yeah.
No. There's some town on back
Either side. Okay, if you see this access road that goes up to Cahaba, either side of that is actually all but the small private parcel is owned by the town. So we do have some contiguousness here. And where was that other 30-acre parcel? I mean, they're
Underneath the A.
underneath the A. Okay, there are a few other things where the town already owns. Well, it looks like, did you add this? Or is that, no, you didn't. Okay, so is that what we already own?
No, this is state.
It's this one right here. So we're
It's just below Dobbin.
And
Yes,
it would be in that, it would be in land that we own.
yeah. Um, I'm gonna lean on him. We're gonna get one other map that is gonna show the additional town holdings. And then I'm gonna lean on you and make sure that the trails are marked in that so that you can see what the connectivity is, because it's gonna be, yeah, the rest of the citizens are gonna wanna know, oh, it's great, we bought it. How do I get there? So,
Barbara?
Yes.
So, oh, probably very right there. I seem to remember there was a chunk, and I thought that was the Footing Spring that was donated to the town by the developer.
Yeah.
Right?
that's correct.
Is that the little front there? Does it should be seem like it should be holy?
Yeah, yeah.
We can, yeah, so what we'll generate in addition to just the ASLD map is the other currently town held properties, the land that we already own. Because that will help once again, as we talk about prioritizing lands, if we want to, go down the road of adjacencies of obtaining over time this land. 80, we got 80 here from Cahaba, and then an additional, I can't remember the acreage on that one.
Looks like maybe
640. Yeah. Mark Stapp gave, or the Cahaba development gave the town 140 acres there. And then this land that's contiguous to state land over here. And like to Bill's point, the town worked with Maricopa County Parks and Recreation and Desert Foothills Land Trust to consummate a deal to acquire 30 acres of residential zone property that's right on the hillside as you walk into Spurcross Ranch Conservation Area. So we've been doing this, right? But this is obviously a much more complex piece, a lot of moving parts. There's not a lot that are contiguous. There's a lot of, chunks that are just kind of out there. But this is why we need a big group. So
What's that red rectangle? Yeah, where it says it's commercial core. Where is that?
that is due north of Cave Creek Regional Park. The state land department wanted and this goes back general plans, 2 or 3 general plans ago. The state land department wanted a resort site, and this was their state land holding that was suitable for a future resort site.
So is that still out there?
It is.
Still viable?
Yep. Yes, it's viable. It's a question.
Yeah.
So, and so not to pull the curtain entirely back in meeting number 1, hour number 2, but we will have the state land department come and present to the committee at large to talk about kind of how they determine ripeness of land before they go to auction or lease. This, my estimation, my editorial, this land, not only the open space, but really the developable land, the zone for residential or commercial land, is so far in their future that they're not thinking about divesting this, selling this, breaking this up for development anytime soon. And there are a bunch of reasons why. It'll be good to hear it from them. But also staff will kind of give you that background and dialogue as well as we go. Yes, Barbara.
You got water to be able to get it out.
No,
The water's in it.
trust me on this. I've spent hours on it, but no.
So the annexation and zoning agreements specifically state if the town has water resources available, then they're entitled to it. We all know, given the current climate and economy of water, we don't have the water resources to support them. And there's no state land entitled water rights to that property. They didn't divert any of their water entitlements from other holdings that they have in the state to this zone.
What the archaeology those sites have to do with anything that they might want. Archaeological sites.
Was that part of the?
So there's a lot of that up there. A lot of that. I think there are sites on there. They didn't have API numbers, so they're about the middle of the that. but they changed that. But there is some archaeological, like, we didn't have to do anything at that point.
We have a member on our planning commission that's actually the North Valley steward for the State Historic Preservation Office. He's a steward of all recognized archaeological sites in the area. Maybe he'd be a good resource to bring in and talk about that as well. I'm not familiar. Like I said, I've probably gotten into some trouble as a juvenile in some of these areas, but I don't recall seeing any archaeological sites.
So it's possible if they're there that we could actually have it preserved differently where we don't have to buy it. And with all you have the because it's part of theirs.
No, I don't think that's necessarily an option. That would be a good question that we can bring up to the state land department.
It's part of Flagstaff. I know that we couldn't build. We had to have someone go out and test our land, and we couldn't build on the property if there was any remnant pottery or anything like that. It was interesting.
Yeah, a lot of that is done through the residential development process, the platting process. Canyon Ridge Estates is a good example. They've got some historical or archaeological significant. They don't even call them like sites. They just say they're archaeologically significant. And then they kind of set those aside as preservation areas on the lot.
That's all over up there because when Mark staff and like bunch were doing it, they were out digging and they was bringing pots and all kinds of things that I'm sure you're aware of on the big blast.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when they plotted, okay, here is maybe Copeland area. You can't build here, but you can build right there, right next to it. So
that was really the catalyst for them deeding this land over to the town.
Good.
Yeah.
So use blue and gray are the open areas that we're referring to. So
Blue and green.
blue and green.
Yes.
So which are specifically are the 4,005? Because all those numbers add up to 5,700 acres. Oh, okay. There's some fury frames with this.
Yeah. So you would want to, if you're going to tally, you're going to do OSR and OSC are the two zoning categories. Open space conservation is that blue color, and open space recreation is that green.
Okay, because you were throwing around Willow Springs, Rogers, Washington, Apache, Washington. That's way more than 4,000 acres.
In total, yeah.
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 So this first map is the one.
Acquisition and equity.
This one.
That's got, everything. So all the residential and commercial state land is taken off of that map, and it's just a hard and fast, here's the open space recreation, there's the open space conservation areas.
So they really aren't contiguous. Yeah.
They're kind of just
all over the place.
And that was by, a lot of years of assessing it, looking at it, talking to state land. There's maps that go back maybe 25 years that have kind of a lava lamp of here's a vein of open space and here's a vein of and once we really got drilled down into, all right, what are the numbers? What does your density need to be down here? And how do we divvy up the acres? Then that's when we started making hard breaks and cutting things up into 20 acres, 40 acres, 80 acres, 120 acres, and building the map out like that. Because it would just be a nightmare to go out and survey veins of land for open space.
The line, there's one source of confusion, and we will run into this with the town, is that the annexation is one thing, like Willow Springs, but the amount of space within the annexation that's being preserved is much smaller. So you'll run into some people who will believe that all of the land that was in the annexations are part of the 4,000 acres of open space. And so they're going to have an unhappy realization that is not in fact the case. So I've been talking to people about this, and that's been a revelation for many people to find out that we're not talking about the entire thing.
So we have to be clear.
Yes, we have
Very
to be clear.
That's that communications and kind of marketing and really identifying this is what we're talking about. And what these blue and green really boil down to for simplification's sake are hillsides. So anywhere where we've got natural grade that's 15% or greater, sloping land, things that are, then you've got some other things that are encumbered by access. All of those, the state was willing to say, yeah, that can be open space. No one wants to see a bunch of houses up the side of that geographic feature. So that's how this ended up being devised.
Are you referring to when you say geological feature?
Just hillsides in general.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean all over. It's where you've got a good amount of slope to the site.
Okay.
They wanted to keep what could be developed. Obviously, we wanted to preserve things that would be more difficult to build on, and also kind of pollute our viewshed. So, any other questions about this map or anything specifically in your binder that you're like, hey, it would be nice if this information was in there, or kind of give Andy and I something to work on? We tried to, outline the maps. Obviously, the cornerstone of Cave Creek is really equal parts open space and preservation, and equal parts open space for, recreation, being able to hike, bike, ride your horse. Those are all hallmarks of the town and the community. So we tried to illustrate those in maps as best we can. It looks like, according to the discerning eye of Bill Besore, we're a little shy of that, but we'll get there.
Would it be important to have a better understanding of how Cahaba Springs development is going to play out as far as where buffer zones would be and in whatever, because that's kind of sort of in the middle of the bottom of this, even though I realize that it's wherever that other map was.
Trail customers, what is the class public hearing that testing?
Oh, there's another one. Okay, this one?
Yeah. You can see on the west side was the dance LTV, it's really white forward.
So there's and this came up during the Morningstar group, Cahaba Springs and that development. It's really set in stone. This map outlines where all the parcels are. These parcels range from, I believe, 2 acres all the way up to 20-acre lots. They obviously put the 20-acre lots kind of in this area that has open space on either side of it. And then the more densely populated areas are closer to the state land that would be developed at some point in the future. So as far as buffer and everything else, they gave the town 200 acres of land for open space. Their requirements are desert rural, just like yours. Does everyone, trying to think who lives in ER zones, who lives in single family zones in the town, but you got your 12-foot native habitat corridor, your 60-foot setbacks, your 30-foot side yard setbacks, all of those things. So as far as ultimately when this develops, it's not going to look really any different than where I live in Red Dog Ranch, or if anyone lives in King Ridge Estates who's familiar with that. That's the density pattern or the development pattern that you'll like.
And you're not aware of any community parks or things like that they want to put up there already that would be up there already?
They wanted to do one on this land that they ultimately gave to the town. They were going to do a nature center there, and then
similar to Cave Creek.
And they said, "Here, just take it. And it's yours."
So how come it wasn't 4-acre minimum, just based on the fact that everything is 190 of that direction, except for Red Dog Ranch, and the city allowed it because they built it?
I believe,
wasn't it a lot more dense?
Correct.
Replatted.
It was in county it was 900 units.
Yeah.
In the town it's 230. I think. Yeah, we'll say 230. But yeah. So yeah, those are platted developments. That's not going to change without council action, and it'd be very difficult for them to undo their entitlement that they have now. So
I know, I really like it.
Someday we'll see. I posted this final plat notice, the public notice, as an intern. It was like my second week working for the town. So 20 years ago. It's how long The wheels of change can take some time. So any other, should we try to maybe tackle how we want these groups to look? Yeah. Mr. Chair, should we move on to that? Okay.
In my book, it's last section, 2011 master plan. I have 2 complete sets of this. Did somebody muscle set? Or are we supposed to have 2 sets? No.
One's for you to doodle on, the other's for you.
Okay.
Yes.
So the background on that is really just to show context. This is work that we've done in anticipation of acquiring the land. What year was that?
2011.
And 2011. You might see some familiar names on there. But that's kind of a good point in time reference point of what we're looking at now. So it sounded like there might have been consensus from the group, and you'll hear me say that a lot, so I apologize from the outset. But it sounded like there was some consensus from the group to combine identifying options for financing and identifying potential stakeholders or partnerships. Is that something that everyone is in agreement on?
I would say so. Yeah.
Just kind of combining that group, and that group would be a slightly larger group. I'm thinking maybe 6 members on that group. Is anybody interested in serving on that? Maybe by a show of hands to kind of help us get.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question for you. Okay. So we have that group, and let's say that group wants to consult with the chair or vice chair, or maybe both of us. Have we then got suddenly a quorum so we can't do that? Okay, so
I had that specific question for Bill, the attorney,
yep,
about what happens. Let's say the chair and the vice chair want to float into some of these different groups. He was very adamant that that is not a good idea because it could actually cause some issues with the quorum issues.
Glad I asked.
And yeah, and also the same thing about other members too.
Yeah,
Floating out of other work groups. So it's the same issue.
Okay.
The goal is to decide once a month. We all sit down.
Yep.
Here's what we're working on. Here are our findings to date. What does everybody think? And then we build.
Okay. Very good. I just wasn't clear on how that worked. Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't. With the one that is establishing the financing and working on that, and that's her ideas of fundraising, putting that stuff together as far as what you do, awareness, like working on my YouTube video that you can have your barcode and you can scan it, your money. I mean, there's so many ways of getting money that now that in technology that I think that's the way we're kind of looking at it on all different variety of ways of getting money.
Well, there is a communication and outreach group that would be kind of more of that.
Okay.
All right. How do we, beyond the agencies and stakeholders and everything else, how do we get to the residents and how do we start, formulating that type of profile?
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. So anybody, so far we've got John. Brave soul. John, thanks for starting the ball rolling. It looks so. I guess we'll just start. Barbara, what of those 3 groups?
I'd like probably the number 2, evaluate, prioritize, open space.
Okay. No one is set in stone. We'll just kind of go through. Bill, what do you think?
Finance.
Okay. Stacy?
Communication.
Okay. Mr. D. Prioritize. Mr. Lamar, Chairman Lamar.
Secondly,
Annie. Cool. Channel.
I like keep calm.
Okay. Kathleen?
I'd like to do the cardinal ties, please. Being a committee bishop, but if you want to put me in that's how you think.
Okay.
Communication.
Okay.
We'll give communication. That's too many.
And then Monday,
Finance.
finance.
You do that. Do you have one a little bit? But where are you lacking?
We
Right.
are the identifying options for financing and identifying stakeholders or partnerships, which if I were betting, which is why I don't bet, I would have said that would have been the most popular. So we only have 3 for that right now. And see, 8, 8, and 12.
I could switch to evaluating, prioritizing.
Okay.
Well, just
Not
you know what they
Right. Yeah. I think David had recommend or asked to be on the and wasn't do you recall his those little encyclopedias we carry in our pocket are amazing. So Marcy, you said was it evaluating or communication was your preference?
You know what? Wherever I need it, it's fine.
Okay.
Do it.
Got this or so I mean we've got 4 in each group at this point. Yes, Janet.
So, where do you want it? Okay. Should we analyzing the property or prioritizing the money here?
I think that financing and stakeholders. Yeah.
That each said evaluating, prioritize.
We've got 4 in it now. I mean, they can. There's room for. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got 5 on options for financing / stakeholders, and then 3 of them was advertising. So there's 5 on that. That's Barbara, Paul B, Steve Lamar, Kathleen Abai, and David Ackerman. And then communication and outreach was Stacy, Yanni, Aaron, and Carol. And that first group, like I said, John, Bill, Monique, Marcy, and Janet. Does that sound about right? I think. Oh,
reps.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke, I think what will make it easy on everybody is we will give you guys your question on that.
Mhm.
For each of those groups, so we'll send that information to you so that you can get something in contact with each other to organize your group meetings.
So could we meet in town somewhere that it's open or are we Zooming or what are we do? If we meet here?
I think especially for the first work group meeting, so you'll get an email. I'll do a committee email and then a working group specific email to each of you, and then just kind of poll you for what sometimes might work for your schedules, and then do a Zoom invite. And we do that first meeting via Zoom, and then kind of, all right, does this time work for everybody? Should we meet on these times or something like that? But as far as the at-large group, before we let you go, is this time and day of the week problematic for anyone's schedule with enough notice? I think, what is this, the 3rd Wednesday of the month?
It's actually the 4th, but it should be the 3rd.
Okay.
The 4th is crazy.
So, 3rd Wednesday of each month as for an at-large.
Went the show.
Yep.
So
2 p.m., 3 p.m.
Yeah.
2.
I want to make sure when you made it by 3,
Are they?
they start like let's get that figured out right now. If you can look at their last month's meeting, let's say they got this room is very in the middle. That's all we got. for a big group like.
Big part, like, yeah.
Well, the individual work groups don't need to be for the public to want to come into it and watch.
No.
No, okay.
So that'll be in the entire committee. I'll send you kind of a calendar and a group of dates. Here's when we're going to meet at large, and then you'll get another email from me to your specific work group. Basically, polling you when you want to meet, when you want to set up.
Okay, that's good. So third works well for us. And then what we'll do is, and Luke said, I think we'll send through the appointment to everybody that's on the populates right now, a whole series on your calendars through Bedbook. Yeah.
So third Wednesday, 2:00 every month for the float group.
Everybody.
Third Wednesday, what's the date of next month?
I'm actually going, should be going. 1 second.
October 22nd.
Good. On that.
So October.
No,
If there is an opportunity, like you can't see here in person, we can kind of do what we did here. We can do.
it would be the
September. Yeah. Better to face the tip and.
Yes.
Should we just do is October 22nd okay for everyone?
It's
I'll go next.
now. I'm in Jamaica. Yeah, that's the first Wednesday. The 20th.
It is the That's the grant.
Well, 16. The 15th. 15 Wednesday.
You have to ignore them. Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a report. Are you available where you could do your part of running the meeting first one? Where you're like the next time that you about nice what's that reliable? I'll figure it. Well, I'll be here once.
Is the 22nd good?
Well,
I know. Yeah, we've got a conflict with the meeting.
what third? Like it
Just start that. Sure.
I could do anything I'd want to. After
If we start at 18 down by
I felt yeah. I mean, there's set up and all of that stuff. We got to do that of the third. Right.
Let's do. We'll do a TBD. We'll just do a TBD for right now. So plan on the 15th. Let's if we can move something around, we'll do that.
start at noon and have Brady buy us lunch.
I would always think that if you want to
October.
okay, court's in every case, so let's make it.
Yeah, court has it in the morning.
Nothing.
Okay, we may have to flex that first meeting, but we'll keep you all apprised of what we do and make sure that we can get together a quorum. This was one of the challenges or hurdles with having a larger group is there's a lot of calendars, right? And so we'll figure it out though. We'll figure it out at doing
And just do us a favor, if you just let us know if you're not going to be able to make it or if you do need to do it through virtual. And we'll always put that on the agenda that you can put the which in the virtual. But just let us know because we may have an issue with that when we want to be able to meet. I'm sorry, Barbara, you're going to say something.
Yeah, we can, if we're out of town, which I will be at, fine. We'll do it like a Zoom call.
You get like absolutely.
Okay.
We had in our trail group, we had a gentleman that was on the committee call from not the back of a tractor, from on top of a tractor, building a trail. So yes, it can be done.
So you've got third Wednesdays in November and December. You can't go to the fourth Wednesday because you're right on top of
Top
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Right. Yeah. So it's got to be the third Wednesday in November and December, right?
Right. It's not like it's going to work for everybody except for share just the
Right.
Okay. Cool. Well, we can do that first meeting. Get them for
Yep. We'll figure out that first meeting, but from then on, third Wednesdays,
well,
2 p.m. There won't be any conflicts with the rain. So
and meanwhile, before then, you're going to be meeting with our booth.
yeah, so you'll get an email from me by end of day tomorrow, just saying, all right, congratulations, you're on this group. Thanks for volunteering for this group. When should we meet? Would you prefer Zoom? I mean, is everybody familiar with Zoom? Can everyone do a Zoom?
Yo,
No.
you can also somebody else. Oh, come here.
Right. Zoom.
I don't want you.
Yeah. We had to do Zoom with our planning commission back in the.
Anything.
Was there any other comments or questions? I think we've got cleared the ring out. We do.
That exciting.
We do have.
Purposes. My name is spelled Carole.
Yes, ma'am. Was it wrong on the agenda? Well,
What's wrong on whatever that piece of paper is? So
you can kick Jambi after the meeting.
I just figured it and believe it. Instead of
So there is an opportunity for public comment. I don't see anyone here wishing to speak. Mr. Chair, did you have any
just
remarks or an amendment maybe?
I can accept a motion to adjourn. We have one.
yeah.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you, everyone. I'd have to get a way to figure out what the states